When a woman runs from commitment, no one expects her to fall, literally, into the arms of the one man she least wanted to allow into her life. Here, love doesn't start with certainties. It starts with chaos, collision, and a dangerous question. What if your biggest fear is exactly what you desire most? Discover how two opposites, broken by their own defenses, can become each other's solution. Before the story begins, please like, subscribe to the channel, and hype the video to help the channel grow. Samantha Nacon was 34 years old, had an apartment in DuPont Circle that cost half her salary, and an unparalleled ability to sabotage any conversation that started with, "So, where's this going?" On that Sunday morning, sitting in an artisanal cafe that served Eggs Benedict for $18, she watched Trevor with 2 R's on Instagram, as he made sure to remind everyone, prepare to ruin her brunch. He adjusted his tie. On a Sunday, who wears a tie to Sunday brunch? "Sam, I've been thinking a lot about us," Trevor began, with that serious tone that made any rational person consider jumping out the window. Samantha felt the coffee cool in her cup, not literally, but emotionally, which was worse. "Trevor, we've known each other for 6 weeks, she said, trying to maintain the polite smile she used in corporate meetings when someone suggested out-of-the-box thinking. "Exactly. 6 amazing weeks. And I think we should make this official. Exclusive. Actually date." The word date echoed in her head like a fire alarm. Samantha was a project manager at a strategic consulting firm. She coordinated teams, managed crises, closed deals with executives who loved to use the word synergy without knowing what it meant. But relationships? Relationships were spreadsheets without formulas, schedules without deadlines, meetings without a defined agenda. "Trevor, she started, but he was already holding her hand across the table with that hopeful look of a puppy in a premium dog food commercial. That's when Samantha did what any mature, rational, and completely in control woman of her own emotions would do. She stood up, mumbled something about a work emergency, grabbed her purse and walked out the door as if the restaurant were on fire. The problem was that she forgot there was a staircase right there, 3 marble Italian steps that apparently had a personal vendetta against her. Samantha stumbled, tried to balance, failed miserably, and was saved by a pair of firm arms that caught her before she met the floor in a humiliating manner. When she looked up, she met gray eyes, an expression of contained surprise, and a cup of gourmet coffee that now decorated his white shirt. "Do you have a habit of falling into strangers? Or is this a premiere?" The voice was deep, lightly amused, with a touch of sarcasm that would make any sensible person annoyed. Samantha quickly pulled away, adjusting her clothes as if dignity were something that could be rearranged by hand. "I am sorry. I was leaving," I noticed, with considerable urgency. He looked at the stained shirt, then at her, one eyebrow arched. "Running away from something or just testing gravity?" "The first option," she answered before thinking. He almost smiled. Almost. It must have been quite an emergency. Samantha realized Trevor was at the cafe door looking confused. She turned to the stranger in the stained shirt, lowered her voice, and said the most ridiculous thing she could have said. "Pretend you know me, please." He blinked. "Excuse me? Just agree with whatever I say." She didn't even know why she was doing this. Panic? Social survival instinct? Temporary insanity? Trevor approached. "Sam, are you all right?" The stranger looked at her, then at Trevor, and then did something completely unexpected. He placed his hand on the small of her back, in a gesture so natural it seemed rehearsed, and said, "She's great, just in a hurry to meet me." Samantha's eyes widened. Trevor frowned. "Excuse me, who are you?" "Chandler. Old friend. We were meeting for coffee." Sam must have forgotten to mention it. His voice was calm, casual, completely convincing. Samantha nodded with excessive enthusiasm. "Yes, Chandler. Old friend. Totally forgot to tell you. Sorry, Trevor. Talk to you later." Trevor looked lost, but eventually nodded and went back inside the cafe. As soon as he disappeared, Samantha moved away from the stranger as if he were electrically charged. "Thank you. You didn't have to do that." "Clearly I did. You looked like you were about to climb the wall to escape him." Chandler looked at the coffee stain on his shirt with resignation. "Though I prefer not to be involved in romantic getaways that result in dry cleaning." I'll reimburse the dry cleaning, Samantha offered quickly. No need. He started to walk away. No, seriously, I feel awful. He stopped, turned around, and for the first time she saw a smirk. Do you feel awful enough not to use strangers as a human shield next time? Noted. Samantha gave a crooked smile. Are you always charming to women on the run? Only the ones with poor aim and terrible improvisation skills. He nodded slightly and walked away, leaving Samantha standing on the sidewalk, processing the fact that she had just involved a complete stranger in her inability to deal with commitment. Great, Sam. Excellent Sunday, she muttered to herself. What she didn't know was that Chandler Lincoln lived in the same building as her, 3 floors above to be exact, and that would not be the last embarrassing encounter between them. Chandler Lincoln was 38 years old, had a minimalist apartment that looked like a design magazine set, and a documented aversion to anything involving sharing feelings. He worked as a senior software engineer at a cybersecurity startup, where he was known for solving impossible problems and for never attending company happy hours. You need to get out more, Lauren Riggs, his co-worker and self-proclaimed curator of his social life, said as she invaded his apartment with a coffee and a blueberry muffin she knew he wouldn't eat. I go out. I went out this morning, Chandler replied without taking his eyes off the computer screen, where 3 code windows competed for his attention. Going to the corner coffee shop doesn't count as a social life. I met a new person. Lauren arched a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Voluntarily, she fell into me. Literally. He finally looked up, stained my shirt with coffee, used me as an alibi to run away from a guy. That is the most interesting thing you've told me in 6 months. Lauren sat on the sofa, smiling. Was she pretty? Chandler closed the laptop. She was chaotic. You didn't answer the question. Lauren. Chandler. She mimicked his tone perfectly. You are 38, ridiculously successful, have an apartment straight out of Architectural Digest, and your idea of Friday night fun is reorganizing your filing system. You need chaos in your life. I have enough chaos debugging intern code. It is not the same thing. Lauren picked up the muffin and took a bite, knowing he would never complain. When was the last time you went out with someone? I go out. Outings that end with, you explaining algorithms do not count. Chandler sighed, the tired sigh of someone who has had this conversation 17 times. I am not good with people. You know that. You are great with people. You just prefer computers because they make sense. People are messy, unpredictable, and demand feelings. Lauren made a dramatic face at the last word. Exactly my point. Chandler, you are not going to find a woman who comes with an instruction manual and an off button when things get complicated. That would be extremely helpful. Lauren tossed a piece of paper at him. You are impossible. Thank you. Can I go back to work now? She stood up, still smiling. That woman who fell into you. Did you get her name? Chandler paused. He hadn't asked, but he had heard the guy at the coffee shop call her Sam, and for some irritating reason, the name had stuck in his head for the rest of the day. No, he lied. Too bad. She sounded promising. Lauren left, taking the muffin with her. Chandler returned to the laptop, but the code seemed less interesting now. He could still feel her weight in his arms, see those wide eyes when she asked him to pretend to know her, hear that nervous laugh when she offered to pay for the dry cleaning. Chaotic. Definitely chaotic. And Chandler Lincoln was absolutely sure that chaos was the last thing he needed in his life. You did what? Caitlin Hilker almost spat out the white wine she was drinking, looking at Samantha as if she had announced she was moving to a monastery. I ran away. I used a stranger as a human shield. I stained his shirt with coffee. It was a sequence of questionable decisions. Samantha was lying on her apartment sofa, holding a glass of Pinot Grigio as if it were a survival trophy. Trevor asked you to be his girlfriend and you bolted out the door. Caitlin was sitting on the floor, laughing so hard that tears started to blur her mascara. Sam, that is tragically hilarious. I know it is ridiculous, but he was there with that let's build a future together face, and all I could think about was Excel spreadsheets and Sunday commitments I do not want to keep. Trevor was not that bad. Trevor wears a tie to Sunday brunch, Kate. A tie. Okay, valid point. Caitlin took another sip of wine. But what about the guy, the savior with the stained shirt? Samantha closed her eyes, remembering those gray eyes and the smirk. He was sarcastic, irritatingly sarcastic. You like sarcasm. I do not. Sam, you work in corporate consulting. Sarcasm is your second language. Samantha threw a pillow at her. Anyway, I am never going to see the guy again. DC is big enough. Caitlin gave that smile that meant trouble, unless the universe has other plans, which, considering your history of embarrassing coincidences, is extremely likely. Do not curse me. I do not need to. You do that yourself. Caitlin refilled her glass. But seriously, Sam, and why did you run? Trevor was not perfect, but he liked you. Samantha was silent for a moment. Because when he said he wanted to make things official, all I could think was, what if I mess it up? What if I am not good at this? What if he realizes that I am just a 34-year-old woman who pretends to have her life organized, but can barely keep a plant alive? You killed that cactus I gave you? Cacti are not supposed to die. They live in the desert. Caitlin laughed, but there was understanding in her eyes. Sam, you are amazing at work because you have control. Relationships are scary because you do not, and it is all right not to. It does not feel all right, because you are still trying to apply corporate logic to human feelings. Love does not come with key performance indicators and quarterly reports. Samantha groaned. I wish it did. I know, sweetie. I know. Caitlin raised her glass. But until then, let us toast to your dramatic escapes and the sarcastic strangers we stain with coffee. Samantha toasted, laughing despite everything. To well-intentioned disasters. To well-intentioned disasters. What neither of them knew was that the sarcastic stranger was exactly 3 floors above, debugging code, and trying not to think about the chaotic woman who had fallen into his arms that morning. Fate, as always, had a peculiar sense of humor and impeccable timing. A box of maple bacon, donuts, and 3 Whole Foods shopping bags was the man whose shirt she had ruined the day before. And yet, there he was, standing in her building's lobby, checking his phone with that relaxed posture of someone who was in absolutely no hurry. The universe, apparently, had a sadistic sense of humor. She considered turning around and taking the stairs. 12 flights, with bags and donuts. Perfectly reasonable. But then he looked in her direction, and those gray eyes met hers with instant recognition. A minuscule smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. You, he said, as if identifying a rare bird species that had just invaded his habitat. You, Samantha replied, because sophisticated vocabulary had completely abandoned the building along with her dignity. You live here, she stated. Apparently you do too. Chandler put his phone in his pocket, crossed his arms, and observed her with that analytical gaze, as if processing a complex problem. Interesting. What are the odds of 2 strangers who bumped into each other at a coffee shop living in the same building in DC? Statistically improbable. But here we are. Here we are. He pointed to the box of donuts. Bribe or breakfast? Therapy, she answered without thinking. Maple bacon donuts solve 90% of my problems. And the other 10%? White wine and terrible decision-making. Chandler let out that low chuckle that sounded more surprised than anything else, as if he hadn't expected to be amused by her. Refreshing honesty. Most people pretend their whole life is figured out. Pretending takes too much work. I already have enough work pretending I know what I am doing in corporate meetings. Samantha started walking toward the elevator, and he followed her naturally. So, what floor? 15. Of course. You look like you live on the top floors. What does that mean? Organized. Minimalist. Probably have an espresso machine that costs more than my car. He pressed the elevator button. I do not own a car. Proves my point. The doors opened, and they stepped into the small mirrored space that immediately felt smaller than it should. Samantha pressed 12, he pressed 15, and then they stood there in that awkward silence that arises when 2 people are trapped in a metal box slowly ascending, while both try to ignore the fact that they perfectly remember the disastrous encounter from the day before. So, Chandler began, watching the numbers change on the display. Did you resolve the situation with the Thai guy? Trevor, Samantha sighed. I sent a polite message explaining that I am not ready for anything serious. He replied with 3 paragraphs about emotional maturity and a quote from Brené Brown. He quoted Brené Brown in a breakup text message? Technically, I was the one who ended it. He just elaborated on my emotional deficiencies with academic references. That is, disturbing on multiple levels. Welcome to my dating history. It is a gallery of red flags that I only identify 3 months later. The elevator stopped at 12, and Samantha held the doors open with her foot. Thank you for yesterday, by the way, for joining my questionable improv theater. It was not entirely altruistic, free entertainment. He tilted his head, studying her in a way that made something strange happen in her chest. It was not uncomfortable, but it was not comfortable either. It was interesting. Try not to run away from anyone else this week. My wardrobe cannot handle it. Samantha laughed, stepped out of the elevator, and turned to face him before the doors closed. No promises. But if I need to run away again, at least I know where to find you, 3 floors up. Terrifying, he replied, but he was almost smiling. The doors closed and Samantha stood in the hallway, processing the fact that the sarcastic stranger was no longer a stranger. It was Chandler, from floor 15, who had an annoyingly good memory and a sense of humor that made her want to continue the conversation just to see where it would go. Trouble, she murmured to herself, entering her apartment. 3 floors up, Chandler entered his apartment, tossed his keys onto the kitchen counter, and tried to ignore the fact that he had spent the last 2 minutes in the elevator trying not to smile. Chaos. 3 floors down, with maple bacon donuts, and an impressive ability for romantic self-sabotage. Definitely trouble, he said to the empty apartment. 2 days later, Samantha was in the building's laundry room at 11 o'clock at night, because household chore procrastination was an art she had mastered. She had thrown everything into the machine without separating colors, because adult life has limits, and was answering work emails on her phone when the door opened. Chandler walked in, carrying a perfectly organized laundry basket, and paused when he saw her. "You have got to be kidding me," Samantha said. "I live here. I have a legal right to use the laundry room." He placed the basket on an empty machine, starting to separate the clothes by color with a precision that bordered on the obsessive. "You separate clothes by color? You do not. I throw everything in together and pray that nothing important turns pink." Chandler paused, a white shirt in his hands, looking at her with an expression between horror and fascination. "That explains a lot about you." "How so?" "You approach your entire life like that. Throw everything in together and hope it works out. It has worked so far. Your definition of worked is generous." He added detergent to the machine with the exact measurement, of course. "How is the maple bacon donut situation? Did it solve the problems?" 80%. The other 20% showed up in the form of Trevor appearing at my work with flowers and another speech about emotional vulnerability. Chandler closed the machine and turned to face her completely. "He showed up at your work? With roses and a book about conscious loving." Samantha made air quotes with her fingers. "My assistant thought it was romantic. I thought it was a violation of professional boundaries. That is misdirected persistence. That is Trevor being Trevor. He is not malicious, just intense. And I am allergic to intensity that is not related to project deadlines. You need a better exit strategy than literal flight. Are you giving me relationship advice?" Samantha arched an eyebrow. "You, who probably have an Excel spreadsheet to manage social interactions?" "It is not a spreadsheet. It is a note system on my phone. That is worse. It is efficient." He leaned against the washing machine, crossing his arms. "And at least I do not fall into strangers to escape uncomfortable conversations. You are never going to let me forget that, are you?" "Absolutely not. It is quality content." Samantha laughed. There was something about the way he teased her. It was not cruel. It was playful, clever, as if he were testing how far he could go before she pushed back. "Okay then, Mr. Notes System, when was the last time you went out with someone?" Chandler hesitated, and Samantha saw the opening. "Ah, so you are terrible at this too." "I did not say that. You did not have to. It is written all over your I would rather have anything predictable than deal with human feelings face. You have seen me twice. You cannot diagnose my psychological profile based on 2 casual encounters. 2.5 encounters. The laundry room counts as half." Samantha picked up the phone she had left on top of the machine. "And I do not need multiple encounters. I work by reading people. It is part of my job. What exactly do you do?" project management and strategic consulting. Basically, I go into dysfunctional companies, pretend I know how to fix everything, and convince executives to sign expensive contracts. Cynical. Realistic. Her machine beeped, signaling the end of the cycle. And you? Let me guess. Something in tech, probably programming. Definitely something that involves more computers than humans. Software engineer. Cybersecurity. She started taking the clothes out of the machine, throwing everything into the basket without folding anything. So we are both people who prefer predictable systems to human chaos. That explains why we are doing laundry at 11 o'clock at night instead of having a social life. I had plans. I canceled. Let me guess. You had a deadline. Meeting tomorrow morning. Also known as socially acceptable excuse to avoid human interaction. Samantha closed the basket and picked it up. I do not judge you. I use the same one. She was almost at the door when his voice stopped her. Samantha. It was the first time he had used her name. Not the woman who fell into me. Or you. Samantha. And there was something about the way he said it, casual but definitive, that made her pause. Yes? If Trevor shows up at your work again, call security. Flowers are one thing. Persistence after a no is not romantic. It is trouble. She turned to look at him, surprised by the seriousness in his tone. I can take care of myself. I do not doubt it, but sometimes it is good to have backup. He gave that half smile again, even if it is just a sarcastic neighbor 3 floors up. Samantha felt something warm in her chest, something that was not inconvenient or uncomfortable, but definitely should not be happening with a guy she had known for literally 3.5 days. Thank you, she said, meaning more than just the words. You are welcome. He returned his attention to his own laundry, as if he had not just done something unexpectedly kind. Samantha left the laundry room, went up to her apartment, and dropped the laundry basket on the sofa without organizing anything. Caitlin was right. The universe definitely had other plans, and those plans, apparently, lived 3 floors up and separated clothes by color. The next day, Samantha was at the corner Starbucks, waiting for a venti iced latte that was taking forever, when Caitlin showed up like a hurricane of energy and ill-concealed curiosity. Okay, explain. Caitlin threw herself into the chair next to her, without even ordering coffee first. Trevor called me Trevor, saying you are going through a hard time and that he just wants to help. What the hell happened? Samantha groaned, burying her face in her hands. He showed up at my work yesterday, with flowers. Again. How many times have you said no to this man? 4, 5 if you count the text message he completely ignored. Samantha finally picked up the coffee the barista had called 3 times. He thinks I am confused and need time to process my feelings. Did he quote Brené Brown again? Worse, he quoted Eckhart Tolle and mentioned being present in the now. Caitlin burst into laughter. He is using New Age philosophy as a reconquest strategy? That is pathetic and hilarious simultaneously. That is Trevor being Trevor. Intense, persistent, and completely blind to the fact that no is a complete sentence. Samantha took a long sip of her coffee. I need a better exit strategy. You need a fake boyfriend. Absolutely not. Why not? It is a classic solution. Persistent man finally gives up when he realizes you have moved on. Caitlin picked up her phone, started scrolling. I have 3 candidates on Tinder who could… Kate, no. Do you have a better option? Samantha paused, thinking about the sarcastic neighbor who had pretended to know her to help her escape Trevor, who lived 3 floors up. Maybe, she said slowly. Caitlin leaned in, her eyes shining with interest. Maybe? Do you have someone in mind? It is no one, just the guy from the coffee shop. The ruined shirt savior? Caitlin practically screamed, making half of Starbucks look over. You have contact with him? He lives in my building. We ran into each other yesterday. And nothing. We talked in the elevator. He is sarcastic, too organized. He probably has opinions about separating recyclable trash. You are describing flaws, but smiling. I am not smiling. You are. That little smile you make when something amuses you, but you do not want to admit it. Caitlin took a sip of Samantha's coffee because she always did that. So this mysterious neighbor, is he handsome? Is that relevant? Extremely. If you are going to use him as an anti-Trevor shield, you need to be minimally convincing. Samantha considered. He is adequate, aesthetically functional. Aesthetically functional? Sam, that is not a product evaluation. Okay, yes, he is attractive, annoyingly so, with that sarcasm that makes you want to hit back just to see where the conversation will go. Samantha stopped, realizing she was giving too many details. But that does not matter, because I am not going to use him as a fake boyfriend. Why not? You already have a history of using him as an alibi. It is natural progression, because it is insane. We barely know each other. I stained his shirt. He coincidentally shows up in the building, and now I am going to knock on his door asking him to pretend to be in a relationship? That is a romantic comedy script. Or it is a perfect romantic comedy script. Caitlin was clearly loving it. Think about it. Trevor sees you two together, finally gives up, problem solved. And as a bonus, you spend time with a guy who makes you smile involuntarily. I do not smile involuntarily. You are smiling now. Samantha forced her face into a neutral expression. I am not. You are a terrible liar. Caitlin stood up. Look, I am not telling you to fall in love with the guy. I am telling you to use the available resources to solve the Trevor problem creatively. Available resources. You are talking about human beings. Available human resources. Better? Caitlin waved, starting to leave. Think about it, and call me when you inevitably do something ridiculous. I want to be prepared to laugh. You are a terrible best friend. I am a great best friend. You just do not recognize. Good advice when you hear it. She stopped at the door. Oh, and Sam, if the sarcastic neighbor lives in your building, coincidences will keep happening. You can accept it now or you can feign surprise every time. The choice is yours. She left, leaving Samantha alone with her thoughts about the neighbor who lives 3 floors up and who might possibly be exactly the kind of complication she did not need, but who, annoyingly, she was starting to want. And when she arrived home that night after an exhausting day of meetings and Trevor trying to call 3 times, she found a note under her door. The handwriting was precise, almost typed. If he calls again, apartment 1507 is available for strategic escapes. No need for coffee to fall on me this time. See, below it was a cell phone number. Samantha put the note in her bedside table drawer, along with other important papers. She was not going to call. Probably. Maybe. Eventually. 3 floors up, Chandler was questioning every decision he had made that day, especially leaving the note. Lauren was right. He was terrible with people. But there was something about that chaotic woman from the 12th floor that made him want to try anyway. Samantha's apartment was flooded. Not slightly damp, not needs a few towels. There were literally 3 centimeters of water covering the living room floor because the apartment above hers, occupied by an elderly couple who apparently decided that 3 o'clock in the morning was the perfect time to install a new washing machine, had turned her ceiling into a giant faucet. This cannot be happening, she murmured, standing in the hallway at 3:15 in the morning, in her pajamas, holding her cell phone with one hand, watching the building manager assess the disaster with a clipboard and an expression that clearly said, I am not paid enough for this. It will take at least 1 week to fix. The woman said, making notes. The insurance will cover a hotel if you want to file the claim tomorrow morning. 1 week? Samantha felt the exhaustion of an entire day of meetings collapse on her like water from a burst pipe. I have a presentation Thursday. I need my files, my work clothes, You can get your things once the water is drained. Probably around 10 o'clock in the morning. The manager gave a sympathetic smile that did not reach her eyes. I am sorry for the inconvenience. Inconvenience. As if being homeless at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday were equivalent to waiting 5 more minutes at Starbucks. Samantha returned to the hallway, considering her options. Caitlin was in New York visiting family. Alana, her sister, lived in Baltimore and would definitely give a half-hour lecture on contingency planning before offering her couch. A hotel meant bureaucracy, forms, and she was too tired to deal with that now, which left her with one option she had been actively avoiding thinking about for 3 days straight. Apartment 1507. No, she said aloud to the empty hallway. Absolutely not. 15 minutes later, she was standing in front of his apartment door, with a gym bag full of random clothes, her laptop, cell phone charger, and the last shred of dignity she still possessed. She knocked on the door. 3:30 in the morning. He was probably sleeping like a normal and rational person. She should leave, call a hotel, handle this like a functional adult. The door opened. Chandler was awake, wearing a gray t-shirt and sweatpants, with headphones hanging around his neck and a cup of coffee in his hand. He looked at her, then at the bag, then at her pajamas, shorts, and an old t-shirt from a 2019 conference, and raised an eyebrow. Did Trevor fill your apartment with flowers and you needed to run away? My apartment flooded. The couple above me decided to do plumbing work at 3 o'clock in the morning. Samantha adjusted the strap of her bag on her shoulder. And before you say anything sarcastic about my life choices, I know that showing up at your door at 3:30 in the morning is ridiculous and presumptuous. And you left that note 1 week ago, so it is probably not even valid anymore. But Caitlin is out of town. My sister will give me a lecture I cannot bear to hear. And hotels require paperwork my brain cannot process at this hour. Do you want to come in, or are you going to continue this monologue in the hallway? He stepped back from the door, holding it open with his foot. Samantha blinked. Seriously? I literally gave you my number for this. He took a sip of his coffee, observing her with that analytical expression that she was beginning to recognize as his way of processing unexpected situations. Although I imagined it would be during business hours, with advance notice. I am sorry. The next time my apartment floods, I will schedule it in advance. Appreciated. He gestured for her to enter. The apartment was exactly as she had imagined. Minimalist, organized to the point of looking like a magazine photograph, with an entire wall of windows that showed DC still sleeping below. There was a work desk in the corner with 3 monitors, a bookshelf with books organized by height, because of course they were, and a kitchen that seemed to have never been used for anything other than making coffee. You are disturbingly organized, Samantha said, dropping her bag on the floor near the door. And you are disturbingly chaotic. Universal balance. He went to the kitchen, grabbed another cup, and poured coffee without asking if she wanted any. The guest room is at the end of the hall. Bathroom next door. Towels in the closet. I do not have breakfast because I usually eat out, but there is coffee and probably some Greek yogurt that may or may not be expired. You are being surprisingly hospitable for someone who was woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was not sleeping. He handed her the cup of coffee. Deadline tomorrow. And technically, you did not wake me up. You just interrupted my debugging process, which is honestly a relief. Samantha took the coffee, feeling the warmth of the cup in her hands. Why are you being nice to me? Questionable definition of nice. I am being basically functional. He leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. And you looked like someone who needed a place to sleep without having to explain your life story to a hotel receptionist at 3 o'clock in the morning. Thank you. She took a sip. The coffee was good. Ridiculously good. Is this from the expensive espresso machine I was sure you had? It is from the expensive espresso machine you correctly deduced I had. He almost smiled. How long are you staying? 1 week. Maybe less. As soon as the manager clears it, I will go to a hotel and start the whole insurance process. She hesitated. I can stay at a hotel if you prefer. You barely know me. I understand if… Samantha. The way he said her name, firm but not impatient, made her stop talking. The guest room exists for a reason, use it. Just try not to flood my apartment too. No promises. Terrifying. He picked up his cup of coffee and started heading back to his work desk. Try to get some sleep. You look exhausted. Samantha stood there for another moment, watching him sit back down in front of the monitors, put on his headphones, and return to work as if he had not just offered his apartment to a semi-stranger neighbor at 3:30 in the morning. Chandler? He paused, took off one headphone, looked at her. Why did you leave that note? For real? He was silent for a few seconds, and she saw something pass through his eyes, something that looked like inconvenient honesty. Because you seemed like the kind of person who was going to need an escape eventually, and I was right. That does not answer why you offered to be the escape. Maybe I am a masochist. He put his headphone back on. Or maybe I just like collecting chaotic people. Samantha laughed, grabbed her bag, and went to the guest room before she could think too much about what any of it meant. The room was as minimalist as the rest of the apartment. Queen-size bed with white sheets, a nightstand, a lamp, nothing more. It was comfortable in its simplicity. No distractions, no clutter. The complete opposite of her. She fell onto the bed, expecting to stay awake thinking about flooded apartments and improbable situations. But exhaustion won, and she fell asleep faster than she had in weeks. 3 hours later, Samantha woke up to the smell of fresh coffee and the sound of someone in the kitchen. For a confused second, she did not remember where she was. Then, the memory returned. Water, 3 o'clock in the morning. Chandler in sweatpants offering hospitality. She got up, fixed her hair the best she could without a mirror, and left the room. Chandler was in the kitchen, now dressed for work in a light blue dress shirt and dark pants, making what looked like scrambled eggs. "You cook," Samantha said, surprised. "Occasionally I need to eat." He did not look up, focused on not letting the eggs burn. "There is fresh coffee. Toast in that. Toaster I use 2 times a year. Make yourself at home. You made breakfast. I made breakfast for myself. You are merely benefiting from the proximity." He finally looked at her, and something in his gaze shifted subtly. "You slept with your hair wet. You are going to have a terrible headache around 10 o'clock. How do you know?" "Basic observation. And you were massaging your temple when you walked into the kitchen." He divided the eggs onto 2 plates, placed toast next to them, and pushed one toward her. "Eat. You are going to need the energy to deal with your apartment disaster." Samantha took the plate, sat on the counter, and watched him eat with the same organized efficiency he did everything else with. "Are you always like this?" "Like what?" "Helpful in a way that pretends it is not being helpful. It is an art form." He took a sip of coffee. "And are you always like this?" "Like what?" "Questioning, analytical, trying to understand people's motivations as if they were work projects. Occupational habit." Samantha ate a piece of toast. "And you did not answer my question." "Because there is no interesting answer. Sometimes people do good things with no hidden agenda. In my experience, there is always an agenda. Then you have had bad experiences with people." He put his plate in the sink, started washing it with the same methodical precision. "But it is not universal. You are annoyingly sensible, and you are annoyingly cynical." He dried his hands, picked up a black briefcase that was on the chair. "I need to go, meeting at 8 o'clock. Make yourself comfortable. Just do not reorganize my filing system, or I will have a meltdown." "You have a filing system?" "For everything." He was at the door, but paused. "Oh, and Samantha." "Yes?" "Try not to flood my apartment while I am gone." She threw a napkin at him, which he easily dodged, smiling for the first time that morning. A genuine smile that made something inconvenient happen in her heart rate. Then he left, leaving her alone in a strange apartment that already felt less strange than it should. 2 hours later, Caitlin called. "Where are you?" Her voice practically pierced Samantha's eardrum. "At Chandler's apartment. Temporarily, because of a legitimate housing emergency." Samantha was sitting on his sofa with her laptop open, trying to work while waiting for the manager to clear her apartment. The coffee shop guy, the sarcastic neighbor, that Chandler? There are not multiple Chandlers in my life, Kate. Oh my God, you are living with him. I am not living with him. I am temporarily displaced due to plumbing circumstances. Samantha adjusted her glasses, looking at the screen that was making 0 sense. It is practical, convenient, platonically functional. Nothing about this situation is platonic, darling. He offered me the guest room. He made breakfast. He was polite and functional. End of story. Men do not make breakfast for women they see as convenient. Caitlin was clearly smiling on the other end of the line. They make breakfast for women they want to impress, while pretending they are not impressing them. You are reading too much romance. And you are reading too little. As always, someone called Caitlin in the background. Look, I have to go. But Sam, enjoy it. You deserve something good, even if it is just breakfast from a sarcastic neighbor. She hung up before Samantha could protest. The afternoon passed strangely quickly. Samantha managed to get her things from the apartment once the water was drained, discovered that her sofa was ruined but most of her clothes had survived, and returned to Chandler's apartment carrying 2 additional suitcases and a growing feeling that she was permanently invading his space. She was organizing clothes in the guest room when she heard the front door open. You multiplied your baggage. Chandler said, appearing at the bedroom door with his tie loosened and that slightly tired expression of someone who spent the entire day in meetings. I managed to retrieve more things. Sorry for the invasion of your minimalist space. Samantha hung a blazer in the closet that was completely empty. I will try to be invisible. You are literally incapable of being invisible. He leaned against the door frame, watching her organize. How is the apartment situation? Disastrous. The insurance will cover it, but it will take at least 10 days to completely dry, and another week to replace the flooring and the sofa. She sighed, sitting on the bed. I am sorry. I know you did not sign a contract to host a hydraulic disaster refugee for 3 weeks. Technically, I signed it when I gave you my number. He crossed his arms but did not look annoyed. And you are already here. It would be inconvenient to kick you out now. How welcoming. I contain multitudes of hospitality. He pushed himself off the door. I am going to order food. Preferences. You do not have to. Samantha. Preferences. She hesitated, then said, Thai, pad Thai, spicy, and if they have spring rolls, even better. Noted. He left the room and she heard him fiddling with his phone in the living room. 20 minutes later, they were sitting on the living room floor because Chandler argued that sitting on his sofa with Thai food was an unnecessary risk, with takeout containers spread between them. So, Samantha said, twirling noodles on her fork, do you always do this? Eat Thai food on the floor? Host homeless neighbors without asking questions. You would be the first. He ate a spring roll. I generally avoid humans as much as possible, and yet you let me stay. Interesting. Or concerning. He looked at her, and there was something in his eyes, curiosity perhaps, or reluctant interest. You do not ask easy questions. Occupational habit. I am paid to dissect problems. I am not a problem to be dissected. Everyone is a problem. It is just a matter of figuring out what kind. Samantha gave that provocative smile. You, for example, are the obsessive organization masking a need for control because the world is chaotic and terrifying kind. Chandler paused. That is, impressively accurate and slightly invasive. You dissected me first. You approach your entire life like that. Throw everything in together and hope it works out. Point for you. He almost smiled. So we are both chronic analysts with questionable defense mechanisms. At least we have that in common. They ate in silence for a few minutes, the kind of silence that does not demand filling. Samantha realized she did not feel the need to fill every second with conversation, which was rare. She usually hated silence. It felt like unverbalized judgment. But with Chandler, silence was just silence. Can I ask a question? He said eventually. Now I am nervous, but yes. Why did you run away from Trevor for real? Not the edited version you give people. Samantha put her fork aside, considering. She could give the easy answer, the same one she had given Caitlin to herself. But there was something about the way he asked, direct but non-judgmental, that made her want to be honest. Because I get scared, she said finally, of commitment, of vulnerability, of opening up space in my perfectly organized life for someone who can mess everything up. She gave a humorless laugh. Ironic considering my apartment literally flooded. The metaphor could not be more obvious. It is not ironic. It is human. Chandler finished his spring roll, wiped his hands with a napkin. Control is an illusion. We just pretend we have it so we do not go crazy with the randomness of everything. That is surprisingly philosophical for an engineer. Engineers think a lot about systems. And relationships are the most buggy systems that exist. He met her gaze. No manual, no documentation, and when something breaks, there is no rollback to the previous version. Exactly. And I am terrible with permanent things. Things I cannot just delete and start over. Samantha picked up her own pad Thai container. That is why I avoid it. It is simpler. Simpler does not mean better, says the man who admitted to avoiding humans whenever possible. I said I avoid them. I did not say it was healthy. He stood up, started gathering the empty containers. But maybe we are more alike than either of us would like to admit. Both excellent at avoiding exactly what scares us. Samantha sat there, processing his frankness. There was something disarming about the way he spoke. No frills, no games, just direct truth served with a side of sarcasm. You are dangerous, she said. How so? You make people want to be honest, and honesty is terrifying. He stopped, looked at her over his shoulder, and gave that half smile. Welcome to my apartment, where inconvenient honesty is served with strong coffee and Thai food. Samantha laughed, getting up to help him clean. I can work with that. Good luck. He took the containers to the kitchen. You will need it. And as they cleaned together in his kitchen, moving around each other with an ease that should not exist between two people who barely knew each other, Samantha realized that maybe she had stumbled into something much more complicated. She had stumbled into someone who saw her completely, chaos, fear, defense mechanisms and all, and still made breakfast. That was definitely trouble. The best kind of trouble. Try not to flood my apartment while I am gone. She threw a napkin at him, which he easily dodged, smiling for the first time that morning. A genuine smile that made something inconvenient happen in her heart rate. Then he left, leaving her alone in a strange apartment that already felt less strange than it should. On the 5th day of cohabitation, Samantha discovered that Chandler sang in the shower. Badly, it must be said. Extremely badly. He was massacring something that sounded vaguely like Fleetwood Mac, while she tried to answer emails in the living room at 6:15 in the morning, holding a cup of coffee and questioning every decision that had led her to that moment. Dreams did not deserve that treatment, she thought. Typing a response to a client while listening to Chandler glorify his off-key singing in the bathroom. There was something deeply humanizing about discovering that the organized, sarcastic man who separated laundry by color also had zero sense of musical rhythm. When he walked out of the bathroom 20 minutes later, hair still damp, wearing dress pants and a navy blue shirt without a tie, she could not hold back. Are you familiar with the concept of pitch? He paused in the middle of the room, looked at her with that neutral expression she was learning to read as contained embarrassment. You heard me. The entire building heard you. Possibly Virginia. Dramatic exaggeration does not suit you. He went to the kitchen, started making coffee with automatic movements. And I do not sing that badly. Chandler, you made Stevie Nicks roll over in her grave. She is not even dead yet, but you achieved that impossible feat. Musical critique before 7 o'clock in the morning. Charming. He poured 2 cups, pushing one toward her even though she already had a half-full one. You grind your teeth at night. Samantha froze. I do not grind. You grind. Like you are manually grinding coffee. I hear it through the wall. That is work-related stress, or generalized anxiety physically manifested. He took a sip of the coffee, observing her with that analytical gaze. You should use a mouthguard. You should wear a vocal suppressor in the shower, yet here we are. He almost smiled, that annoying half-smile that made something inconvenient happen in her chest. Tied, then. Tied, she agreed, drinking the coffee he had made. It was perfect, obviously, because Chandler did not do anything halfway, not even coffee at 6:30 in the morning. That was the problem with forced cohabitation, Samantha was realizing. You discovered things, small things, things that did not matter but somehow mattered completely, like the fact that he always washed his coffee cup immediately after finishing, but left hers in the sink because you will want more coffee anyway, so what is the point of washing it now? Or that he reorganized the magnets on the fridge by color when he was thinking about a problem. Or that he bought almond milk even though he did not like it just because she had casually mentioned she preferred it in her coffee. Small things that were absolutely big things disguised as practicality. Do you have a meeting today? He asked, picking up the black briefcase that lived on the chair. Presentation at 2 o'clock, new client. Family company that is spontaneously combusting because the son wants to modernize everything and the father wants to maintain tradition. Samantha made air quotes with her fingers. Basically, I am going to spend 3 hours convincing 2 stubborn people to stop behaving like children. Sounds like my meeting yesterday. He adjusted the briefcase under his arm. Except it was 2 developers arguing about which language to use for a project that will probably be canceled in 1 month. Useless passions are the fuel of the entire corporate economy. Cynical philosophy before 7 o'clock. You are evolving. He was at the door but turned back. Good luck with the presentation. Do not let anyone interrupt you. You have that I am going to destroy you with facts and logic look that works well in conference rooms. Samantha blinked. processing what might have been a compliment wrapped in sarcastic observation. "Thank you. You are welcome." And he left, leaving her alone in the apartment that was starting to feel less like a temporary invasion and more like something dangerously close to comfortable. She picked up her cell phone, saw 3 messages from Caitlin in the group chat she kept with her best friend. "How is domestic life with Mr. Sarcasm? Have you jumped him yet? Or are you still pretending you do not want to? Silence is confession. Details now." Samantha typed a quick response. "He sings badly in the shower and he bought almond milk. Nothing is happening. Stop projecting romances where none exist." The response came in 3 seconds. "He bought almond milk without you asking, Sam. That is love language. You are screwed." Before Samantha could reply, another message appeared, this time from Alana, her sister, who had called the day before and received the full summary of the housing situation. "Just stopping by to remind you that men who offer shelter without expectation are either saints or psychopaths. Background check would be prudent. He is not a psychopath. He is just kind. Nobody is just kind. Everyone wants something. Find out what he wants before you get hurt." Samantha turned off her phone, annoyed by her sister's ability to turn any situation into an unsolicited therapy session. Alana was 41 years old, had 2 divorces, and a view of relationships so cynical it made Samantha look optimistic, which was a considerable achievement. The truth was she did not know what Chandler wanted, if he wanted anything at all. Maybe he was genuinely just a decent person doing a decent thing. Maybe she was projecting complications where there was only functional hospitality. Except functional hospitality did not explain the almond milk, or the extra coffee, or the way he always waited for her to finish speaking before responding, as if her words actually mattered. "Trouble," she murmured, knowing she was in dangerous territory and with absolutely no plan for evacuation. That afternoon, after the presentation, which had gone surprisingly well, the father and son agreed not to mutually kill each other, which she counted as a victory. Samantha returned to Chandler's apartment and found Austin at the door, holding a pizza box and a smile that meant trouble. "You must be the temporary roommate," he said, extending his free hand. Austin, the more attractive brother. Samantha, the homeless neighbor. She shook his hand, unlocked the door. "Chandler is not here. I know. He is stuck in a meeting until 7 o'clock, which gives me exactly," he checked his watch, "45 minutes to interrogate you about your intentions with my brother. My intentions are not to flood his apartment. Does that count? Depends." Austin walked in behind her, put the pizza on the kitchen counter if he lived there. "Do you like him?" "He is adequate as a temporary roommate." That was not the question. Austin grabbed 2 plates from the cabinet because apparently he knew the kitchen better than she did, and served pizza. "My brother is complicated. Too smart for his own good, emotionally constipated, with a tendency to treat relationships like code problems that can be debugged. You are selling him really well." "I am not selling. I am contextualizing." Austin handed her a plate. "But he is also loyal, genuine when he decides to trust someone, and he has this annoying way of making people want to be better without even realizing he is doing it." Samantha took the pizza, watching Austin curiously. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because he likes you." Austin said it with the casualness of someone commenting on the weather. And he is terrible at admitting when he likes someone because that requires vulnerability, and vulnerability is terrifying for people who grew up thinking emotions were system bugs. That is surprisingly profound for someone holding a pepperoni pizza. "I contain multitudes." He took a bite, chewed thoughtfully. "So, are you going to break his heart? Or does he have a real chance here?" "I am not going to break," Samantha stopped, realizing she was defending something she did not even know existed. "We are just cohabiting temporarily. There are no hearts involved." "Keep saying that. Maybe eventually you will believe it." Austin finished the pizza in record time. "But seriously, Sam, can I call you Sam? My brother does not invite people into his space, ever. He has 3 locks on his door and paranoia about fingerprints. The fact that you are here, eating at his counter, using his shower, existing in his territory, that means something. It means he is a decent person who helped someone in an emergency situation. Or it means he found someone who makes him want to risk the chaos. Austin stood up, grabbed another slice. Just do not run away when things get real. He has had enough people do that. Before Samantha could ask what that meant, the door opened and Chandler walked in, paused upon seeing his brother, and sighed with familiar resignation. How did you get in? I have a key. You gave me a key for emergencies. Pizza is not an emergency. I vehemently disagree. Austin picked up the box. I was just getting to know your roommate. She is delightful, in the personality sense, not the cannibalism sense. Although, get out, Chandler said, but he was almost smiling. Leaving. But first, Austin looked at Samantha, then at Chandler, with that younger brother smile that lived to cause trouble. You two have that energy. You know, that let us pretend we are not dying to jump each other energy. Austin, I am just observing scientific facts. He waved at Samantha. It was a pleasure, Sam. Do not let him fill you up with coffee and sarcasm. He does that when he likes someone but does not know how to express it with words. He left before anyone could reply, leaving an awkward silence floating between them. Chandler took off his briefcase, put the keys on the counter, looked at the half-empty pizza box. My brother is a disaster. He is entertaining. He is problematic. Chandler picked up a slice of pizza, ate it standing right there without a plate, and Samantha realized he looked tired. Not physically. Tired, but mentally exhausted. The kind that came from spending 8 hours in meetings solving other people's problems. Bad meeting. Indecisive client who wants maximum security but refuses to implement any protocol that is slightly inconvenient. He finished the pizza, washed his hands. Basically, they want miracles without effort. Welcome to my world. Except my clients want organizational transformation without changing absolutely anything about the organization. Humanity is frustrating. Extremely. Samantha took another slice, watching him loosen his tie. There was something hypnotic in the movement. In the casual way he untied the knot, pulled the fabric from his collar. She forced her eyes back to the pizza. Your brother said you never invite people into your space. My brother talks too much. But is it true? Chandler paused, considered the question with that seriousness he applied to everything. I generally prefer solitude to inadequate company. And I am adequate company? You are. He searched for the right word. Tolerable. What a sweeping compliment. You grind your teeth, leave clothes on the sofa, and occasionally eat cereal straight from the box at 2 o'clock in the morning when you think I am asleep. He looked at her with that almost smile. But you also wash your own dishes, you do not reorganize my things, and you have opinions on bad Netflix series that make me want to watch them just to disagree with you. You watched that documentary I mentioned, only to formulate arguments against your ridiculous conclusions. My conclusions were solid. Your conclusions were based on emotional speculation disguised as critical analysis. Now you are just provoking. Perhaps. He took more pizza, finally sat on the counter stool beside her. But you are fun to provoke. You get that, I am going to destroy you with logic expression, and then you present a surprisingly well-constructed argument that forces me to reconsider my position. So, you admit I was right about the documentary? Absolutely not. But your argument had merit. Samantha laughed, gently bumped her shoulder against his, and became extremely conscious of the proximity, of his warmth, of the smell of cologne and something that was just him. She pulled away before she could process what that contact meant. I need to work, she said quickly, picking up her laptop. Me too. But he did not move. Immediately, just stayed there, looking at her with that expression she could not completely decipher. Then he got up, went to his work desk, and the evening continued like all the others since she had arrived there, working in silence, occasionally exchanging sarcastic comments, existing in the same space with an ease that should not make sense. Except it did, and that was the scariest part. The next day, Lauren showed up. Samantha was working on the sofa. Chandler had reluctantly agreed she could use it after she solemnly promised not to spill anything when the doorbell rang. Chandler opened the door, and a woman entered as if she owned the place, holding 2 coffees and an expression of undisguised curiosity. So this is the famous neighbor, Lauren said, handing a coffee to Samantha without introduction. Lauren, co-worker and unsolicited curator of his life. Samantha, temporary refugee and apparently topic of office conversation. Oh, you are absolutely way. A topic of conversation. Lauren threw herself into the armchair, completely ignoring Chandler's warning look. He mentions you constantly. Sam thinks that. Sam said. Sam has a theory about. It is adorable and slightly pathetic. I do not do that, Chandler protested. You do. Yesterday you quoted her opinion on project management 3 times in one meeting. Because it was relevant. It was relevant because you are obsessed. Lauren took a sip of her coffee, observing the two of them with the analytical look of someone who was cataloging every micro-expression. So, Sam, how long until the two of you stop pretending this is just a temporary living arrangement? Lauren, Chandler said with a warning tone. What? I am just accelerating the inevitable. She looked at Samantha. He is terrible with feelings. He will make everything seem practical and logical until the moment he realizes he is completely in love, and then he will panic. I do not panic. You panicked when the intern reorganized your filing system. You are definitely going to panic over feelings. Samantha was thoroughly enjoying this show, watching Chandler become increasingly uncomfortable as Lauren verbally dissected him. How long have you two worked together? 4 years. Long enough to know all his defense mechanisms. Lauren turned fully to her. He likes to pretend he is all logic and zero emotion, but the truth is he feels a lot. He just does not know how to do with it, so he converts everything into sarcasm and efficiency. Can I leave my own living room while you two discuss my psyche? No, the two replied simultaneously. Lauren smiled. See, you are already synchronized. That is chemist. The doorbell rang again, interrupting her. Chandler opened it with a look of relief, which quickly turned to confusion when he saw who it was. Trevor. Sam. Trevor was standing there with flowers again, and that look of misguided determination. We need to talk. Samantha froze. Chandler looked at Trevor, then at her, and something shifted in his posture. It became more solid, protective. She does not want to talk to you, Chandler said, his voice calm but with an edge of steel. Sorry, who are you? Chandler, the owner of the apartment where she is staying. He casually crossed his arms, blocking the entrance. And the person who is politely asking you to leave. Sam said she was staying at a friend's house because of, apartment issues. She lied, Chandler said without hesitation. Because you do not take no for an answer. Trevor looked at Samantha, who had gotten up from the sofa and was standing behind Chandler, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and something that felt dangerously close to affection. Sam, this is ridiculous. We had something real. Trevor, Samantha finally found her voice. I said no, multiple times, and you continuing to show up is not romantic. It is invasive. I just want a chance to… No. She moved to stand beside Chandler, feeling his warmth, his solidity. You are a good guy, but we do not work, and you need to accept that and move on. Trevor looked between them, processing, and she saw the moment he understood. You two are together. No, Samantha started, but Chandler cut her off. Yes. He glanced at her quickly, a silent question in his eyes, and she realized he was offering her an out, a way to make Trevor finally give up. She should correct him. She should explain that they were just good friends, but there was something about the way Chandler stood there, offering this without expecting anything in return, that made her just nod. Yes, she agreed. Trevor sighed. Lowered the flowers. Right, okay, I am sorry for bothering you. He left finally, and Chandler closed the door. Lauren was smiling as if she had won the lottery. You two are horrible at pretending, she said. The sexual tension is so obvious I need sunglasses. Lauren, leave, Chandler said, but without real heat. Leaving. But you two need to have a conversation about that. She pointed between them. Because friends do not do what you just did. And roommates definitely do not look at each other like that. She left, leaving them alone in the charged silence. I am sorry, Chandler said finally. I should not have… Thank you, Samantha cut him off, for finally making him leave. It was not… He paused, met her eyes. You should not have to deal with that alone. I can take care of myself. I know, but you do not always have to. He took half a step toward her, and the air thickened. Sam… His cell phone rang, destroying the moment. He answered it, switched back to work mode, and Samantha took a breath for the first time in 30 seconds. That night, After both of them had finished working and were doing the strange routine of sharing the bathroom to brush their teeth, her first, then him, because order is important. Samantha finally broke the silence. Chandler? He appeared in her bedroom doorway, wearing a simple pajama shirt, his hair messy in a way that should not be attractive but was. Yes? Why did you do that? With Trevor. He leaned against the doorframe and considered the question with that seriousness of his. Because he was bothering you, and you deserved peace. But you lied. You said we were together. It was a strategic lie to solve a persistent problem. He looked at her, and there was something in his eyes that made her heart accelerate inconveniently. Unless you want it to be true, in which case it would not be a lie. Samantha stopped breathing. Chandler realized what he had said, how it had sounded, and for a second she saw a genuine vulnerability cross his expression. Forget it. I am tired. Saying things without a filter. Chandler. Good night, Sam. He backed away before she could reply, went to his room, and closed the door. Gently. Samantha stood there processing, feeling something expand in her chest that was terrifying and wonderful at the same time. She had spent her entire life running from proximity, and now she was living with a man who sang badly in the shower, bought milk he did not like, defended her from persistent ex-boyfriends, and had just admitted, or almost admitted, that maybe, possibly, he was feeling something that went beyond functional hospitality. And the scariest thing? She was feeling the exact same thing. Trouble, she whispered to the empty room. 10 feet away across the hall, Chandler was having the exact same thought. The last thing Chandler expected that Friday night was to end up at a karaoke bar in Adams Morgan, because Caitlin had decided that Samantha needed to get out of the apartment before the two of you imploded from unresolved sexual tension. But there he was, holding a craft beer that cost $12 and watching someone butcher live-in on a prayer while questioning every choice that had led him to that moment. You have that I would rather be debugging code look, Samantha said beside him, leaning in to be heard over the music. She was wearing a dark blue dress that he had definitely not noticed when they left the apartment. Definitely not. I am calculating how many socially acceptable excuses I have to leave here. Let us be honest, you do not have socially acceptable excuses. You have work-related excuses that nobody believes anymore. She took a sip of her gin and tonic, her eyes sparkling with amusement. But you came, which means either Caitlin blackmailed you or you secretly like bad karaoke. Third option, I came because you were coming and I thought it was unwise to leave you alone with your friend, who clearly has questionable taste. How chivalrous and completely unnecessary. I can take care of myself. Can I add that to the list of things you say repeatedly while clearly appreciating when someone cares? Samantha glared at him, trying to look annoyed but failing miserably. You are annoying, and you are smiling. That proves nothing. Caitlin appeared out of nowhere, pulling both of them by the arm with suspicious enthusiasm. Okay, kids, time for you two to sing. Absolutely not, Chandler said immediately. You have heard me sing, Samantha added. It is auditory violence. Exactly why. You are going to sing together. Sharing humiliation builds bonds. Caitlin was already dragging them to the sign-up sheet. And I already chose the song, Don't Go Breaking My Heart. Classic, romantic, perfect for two people who are desperately in denial. Caitlin, no arguments. You are on the list. She disappeared into the crowd before either of them could properly protest. Chandler looked at Samantha. Samantha looked at Chandler. Both looked equally terrified. We can run away, he offered. She would catch us. Kate has the instinct of a hunter when it comes to well-meaning social torture. Samantha finished her gin and tonic in one gulp. We will just survive this with minimal dignity. Dignity flew out the window the moment we walked into this bar. Valid point. 15 minutes later, 15 long minutes where Chandler seriously considered faking a work emergency, but knew Samantha would never let him forget it. They were on the small stage, holding microphones as if they were explosives, while the first notes of Elton John began to play. I hate you for this, Samantha murmured. The feeling is completely mutual. But then the music truly started, and something strange happened. Maybe it was the beer. Maybe it was the absolute ridiculousness of the situation. Maybe it was the fact that Samantha started singing with a confidence that did not match her pitch at all, and it was so absurdly charming that Chandler found himself genuinely smiling for the first time in weeks. They were terrible, spectacularly terrible, but they were being terrible together, laughing between verses, looking at each other with that complicity that had developed in the last 2 weeks of forced cohabitation, and when they reached the chorus, singing about not breaking each other's hearts. There was an irony in the air that neither of them wanted to acknowledge. The crowd was applauding, probably out of pity. When they finished, Samantha was laughing so hard she could barely walk straight back to the table. "That was humiliating," she said, but she was smiling. "It was disastrous," Chandler agreed, feeling something light in his chest that he had not felt in a long time. "But your friend was right about one thing." "Only one?" "She is usually right about several things. Sharing humiliation truly builds bonds." Samantha paused, looked at him with that expression he was still learning to read, and for a second he thought she was going to say something important. But then Austin showed up because his brother's timing was consistently terrible. "That was beautiful," Austin said, wiping imaginary tears. "Musically terrible, but emotionally rich." "How are you here?" Chandler asked. "Caitlin invited me. She thought you two needed a supportive audience." Austin ordered a beer, turned to observe the next karaoke victim. "So, when are you going to stop pretending?" "Pretending what?" Samantha asked. "That this is just a temporary living arrangement. That you are not completely smitten with each other. That the tension between you is not obvious enough for Lauren to take bets at the office about when you are finally going to admit it." "Lauren is taking bets?" Chandler felt annoyance and resignation in equal parts. "Everyone is taking bets. I bet on 2 weeks from now. Do not disappoint me." Austin grabbed the beer that had arrived. "But seriously, you two are functional adults. Use words, express feelings, do things that emotionally intelligent humans do." "Relationship advice from the guy who dated for 3 months and is already living together?" Chandler said. "Exactly. I know the importance of not wasting time with useless denial." Austin patted him on the shoulder. "Life is short. The apartment is already shared. Skip the part where you are scared and go straight to the part where you are happy." He left to talk to Caitlin, leaving them in uncomfortable silence. "Your brother is..." Samantha searched for the word. "Intrusive? Lacking personal boundaries?" "I was going to say direct, but your options also work." She spun the glass between her hands. "Is he wrong?" Chandler felt his heart accelerate. About us. About this being more than a temporary living arrangement. He could lie. He could make a sarcastic joke, change the subject, go back to safe territory where feelings were bugs to be eliminated. But there was something about the way she asked, vulnerable but brave, that made him want to be equally brave. "No," he said simply. "He is not wrong." Samantha opened her mouth to reply, but then someone called her name. A man in his 30s, generically handsome, smiling as if they were old friends. "Sam? Samantha Nakin?" She turned and Chandler saw recognition flash across her face. "Devin? I do not believe it is you." Devin hugged her with a familiarity that made something unpleasant happen in Chandler's chest. "How many years?" 5, 6, since..." She paused, something shifting in her expression. "Since we broke up. Ex-boyfriend, of course, because the night was not complicated enough. You look great. Seriously." Devin finally seemed to notice Chandler. "Oh, sorry. I do not want to interrupt. Are you two together or..." "Yes," Chandler said, surprising himself with the firmness. "We are together." Samantha looked at him with surprise but did not correct him. In fact, she subtly moved closer, and he felt her warmth against his arm. "Really? That is great." Devin seemed genuinely happy, which made it hard to hate him. "Sam deserves someone good. I messed things up with her, so it is good to see she found someone." There was a polite conversation for a few more minutes. Devin eventually said goodbye, and then they were alone again with the weight of what Chandler had said floating between them. "You keep doing that," Samantha said finally. "Doing what?" "Saying we are together when we are not. Maybe I am trying to manifest it into reality." He tried to make it sound like a joke, but it came out too serious. "Chandler, Sam, I need to tell you something." He put his beer aside, turned to face her completely. "And you can laugh, or you can run away. Or you can use this against me later, but I need to say it before I lose my nerve completely." She stayed quiet, waiting, and he saw fear in her eyes, but also curiosity, and something that looked dangerously close to hope. "When you showed up at my door at 3 o'clock in the morning, I should have said no. It would have been more logical, more sensible, more in line with all the rules I established for my life about not letting people in." He took a deep breath. "But I did not say no, because since that first day when you literally fell into my arms and stained my shirt with coffee, I wanted to get to know you better. And when you asked me to pretend I knew you, it was the perfect excuse. Chandler, let me finish. Before my brain convinces me this is a bad idea." He almost smiled. "You are chaotic, messy, emotionally complicated, all the things I spend my life avoiding, but you are also brilliant and funny and honest in a way that makes me want to be equally honest. And these last 2 weeks having you in my space, sharing breakfast, arguing about stupid documentaries, just existing in the same place as you, it has been the best 2 weeks I have had in years." Samantha was completely motionless, her eyes wide, and he could not read her expression. "So no," he continued, "my brother is not wrong. This is not just a temporary living arrangement for me. It has not been for a long time. And if that scares you, or if you do not feel the same way, that is okay. But I needed to be honest, because pretending I do not feel anything is becoming impossible." The silence afterwards was the longest of his life. Samantha was looking at him as if she were seeing him for the first time, processing, and Chandler felt the panic start to rise because maybe he had just ruined everything. "You bought almond milk," she said finally. He blinked. "What?" "In the first week. You bought almond milk even though you do not like it just because I mentioned I prefer it in my coffee." She let out a laugh. "And you made breakfast, and you defended me from Trevor, and you came to horrible karaoke because you did not want me to be alone, and you overlook small things like the fact that I grind my teeth or leave clothes on the sofa, and instead of getting annoyed, you just adapt." "Sam, I am terrified," she admitted, "because I am awful at this, at relationships, intimacy, letting someone truly know me. I always run away before it gets real because real means vulnerability, and vulnerability means I can get hurt. I know. But you know me. The messy pieces, the anxiety that I disguise as efficiency, and you did not run away. You stayed, and made coffee, and let me use your perfectly organized apartment even though I am a walking disaster. To be fair, you are a very well-organized disaster." She laughed. "I feel what you feel too. I just did not know how to say it because saying it makes it real, and real is terrifying." Chandler felt something loosen in his chest, something that had been tense for 2 entire weeks. "So we are both terrified and we are both bad at expressing our feelings, apparently." She took out half a step toward him. "What do we do now?" "Honestly, I have no idea. This does not come with an instruction manual." "Great. So we are improvising. My least favorite thing. Mine too." Samantha was so close now that he could smell her perfume, something floral and light that had invaded his apartment over the last few weeks. "But maybe we can improvise together." "That sounds like guaranteed disaster." "Probably." She looked at his mouth, then back at his eyes, and there was intention there. "But you told me once that sometimes people do good things with no hidden agenda." "I said that, so maybe we can do something good. Something scary and messy and completely unplanned." She put her hand on his chest, feeling his heart accelerate beneath her fingers. "Something like..." She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to, because Chandler closed the distance between them and kissed her. It was different from anything he had imagined, and he had imagined it more times than he cared to admit. It was not gentle or hesitant. It was urgent and inevitable, as if they were two people who had been holding their breath and were finally letting the air out. Her hands went up to his hair, pulling him closer, and he put his hands on her waist, pulling her against him with a necessity he did not know he possessed. Samantha made small sounds against his mouth that were destroying any remaining rational thought. She tasted like gin and tonic and something that was just her, and when she lightly bit his lower lip, Chandler felt the whole world narrow down to that moment. That kiss. That woman who had made his apartment more alive in 2 weeks than it had been in years. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, She looked at him with those wide eyes and said, "That was, yes. We probably should, definitely." But neither of them moved. They stood there, foreheads touching, breaths mingled, processing the fact that they had finally crossed that line they had been dancing around for weeks. Finally! Caitlin's voice sliced through the moment like an alarm. She was standing 10 feet away with Lauren and Austin, all smiling as if they had won something. "I bet it would be today," Lauren said. "Next week, I won." "You were actually betting?" Samantha asked, but she was smiling. "Darling, but of course everyone was betting." Caitlin came up to them, pulled both of them into a suffocating hug. "You two are adorably oblivious." "We are not oblivious," Chandler protested. "You literally lived together for 2 weeks before admitting you liked each other," Austin contributed. "That is the definition of oblivious." "I had my reasons," Samantha said defensively. "Paralyzing fear is not a reason, it is an obstacle." Lauren picked up her drink. "But you overcame it. I am proud. This is emotional growth." "You are all unbearable," Chandler said, but he could not stop looking at Samantha, who was. "Let us leave the lovebirds alone," Caitlin announced, pushing Lauren and Austin toward the bar. "But you two need to name the first child after me. It is a rule." "We are not having," Samantha started, but they were already gone. She looked at Chandler, who was still processing that he had kissed her in public, in a karaoke bar, surrounded by friends and his brother, and any sense of discretion that he usually religiously maintained. "So," she said, smiling with that crooked smile he adored, "is this official now?" "Depends. On what? Are you going to stop leaving clothes on the sofa?" "Absolutely not." "Are you going to stop eating cereal straight from the box at 2 o'clock in the morning?" "Unlikely." "Are you going to keep arguing with me about bad documentaries?" "Always." Chandler pulled her back, kissed her quickly, and murmured against her mouth, "Then yes, it is official." Samantha laughed, kissed him again, and for the first time in 34 years, she did not feel the need to run away, because she had finally found someone who not only accepted her chaos, but had space for it, someone who made coffee and argued about documentaries, and kissed her like she was the only thing that mattered in the entire universe. And Chandler, who had spent 38 years avoiding anything that could mess up the perfectly organized system of his life, discovered that the best kind of mess was the one that came with easy laughter, disarming honesty, and a woman who ground her teeth at night but made him want to wake up every morning just to see her smile. 2 hours later, back home, they walked into the apartment with that strange energy of two people who had finally admitted they were completely smitten, but did not know exactly what to do with that information. "So," Samantha said, dropping her bag on the sofa, on his sofa, which was now theirs apparently, "what happens now?" "Honestly, I have the faintest idea." Chandler took off his coat, hung it in the exact place where he always hung it. "This is new territory. For me, too." She took off her shoes, walked up to him, put her hands on his chest again. "But I think we can figure it out together." "You are surprisingly optimistic for someone who spent the entire evening admitting she is terrified." "I am still terrified. But I am also," she searched for the right word, "hopeful, which is new and scary, but good." Chandler put his hands on her waist and pulled her close. "Hopeful, I can work with that. Good, because I intend to continue being chaotic and messy and bad at emotional expressions. And I intend to continue being obsessively organized and emotionally constipated. Great. So we are disasters in progress. The best disasters." He kissed her again, slower this time, savoring it. When he pulled away, there was a question in his eyes. "Are you still going to move out?" "When your apartment is ready?" Samantha considered. Her apartment would be ready in less than 1 week. She could go back to her own space, to her own perfectly organized life that did not include shared coffee and arguments about documentaries and someone singing Fleetwood Mac horribly in the shower every morning. She could, but the idea of going back to that empty apartment, of waking up without hearing Chandler moving in the kitchen, of no longer having those random midnight conversations. "I do not know," she admitted. "Part of me thinks I should maintain some independence, not jump too quickly into permanent cohabitation just because we are already technically cohabiting temporarily. That is logical. But another part of me does not want to leave, because this," she gestured between them around the apartment, "works. In a strange, improbable way, but it works. That is also logical. He played with a lock of her hair. No pressure. You can decide when the apartment is ready. Or not decide, just exist here while we figure this out. You are annoyingly understanding, and you are annoyingly indecisive. We match. She laughed, kissed him again because she could now, and said, "Let us make a deal. No big decisions today, just this, the two of us, figuring it out." "Figuring it out," he agreed. And as they stood there, in the middle of the minimalist apartment that had become a shared space, both realized that maybe love was not about having all the answers. Maybe it was about being willing to ask the questions together, even when the answers were frightening, even when the future was uncertain, even when it required vulnerability that both had spent their lives avoiding. Because for the first time, they had found someone who was worth the risk. And that, Samantha thought as Chandler pulled her to the sofa to watch bad documentaries and argue about them, was everything. The first breakfast as an official couple was exactly the same as all the others, except for the part where Samantha showed up in the kitchen wearing Chandler's shirt, and he momentarily forgot how the espresso machine worked. She noticed, of course, because she noticed everything, and that crooked smile appeared, which definitely did not help in the recovery of his cerebral functionality. "You are looking at me as if you have never seen someone wear a shirt before," she said, picking up the cup of coffee he had prepared on autopilot. "I am just processing the logistics of you wearing my clothing." Chandler returned his attention to the eggs he was scrambling, trying to look casual. "It implies decisions that were made about the shared wardrobe. It implies that I woke up and my clothes were 10 feet away while yours were conveniently on the floor next to the bed." She took a sip, observing him with that analytical gaze. "But if you want to discuss morning attire logistics, we can make a schedule with color coding. Sarcasm before 7 o'clock, you are evolving. I learned from the best." She moved closer, kissed him quickly, and stole a piece of bacon from the frying pan. "Good morning, by the way." "Good morning." He pulled her back for another kiss, longer this time, and when they separated she was smiling in that way that made his chest clench inconveniently. "Are you going to work like that?" "Obviously not, but I have 45 minutes before I need to look professional. I plan to maximize comfort time." She took the plate he offered, sat on the counter stool. "Do you have a meeting today?" "Two. One at 9 o'clock about the project that should have been canceled but inexplicably is still alive, and another at 3 o'clock with a client who thinks an 8-character password is sufficient security. Humanity is desperate." Consistently, he sat beside her, and there was something surreally normal about it. Breakfast. Talk about work. Her wearing his shirt as if she had always done so. "Sam? Does not this feel strange to you?" She paused, considered. "You mean the fact that yesterday we were pretending we had no feelings and today I'm stealing your clothes and eating your eggs?" "Precisely. It should feel strange. Statistically, it should be uncomfortable and artificial." She ate another bite thoughtfully. "But it is not. And that is what is truly strange." "I agree." He drank his coffee, looking at her out of the corner of his eye. "So we continue?" "Continue what? Being strangely comfortable together?" "That and the rest. Official dating, cohabitation, the full functional adult relationship experiment." Samantha smiled, but there was vulnerability in her eyes. "You want that? Truly? Because I am still a disaster. You are going to wake up in 2 months and realize I leave dishes in the sink and forget to buy toilet paper and have 3 o'clock in the morning existential crises. About work presentations. I know. I saw you having a 3 o'clock in the morning existential crisis. You ate half a tub of ice cream while reviewing slides." He took her hand, interlaced their fingers. "And I still want this, as long as you are willing to tolerate that I separate laundry by color and have strong opinions about file organization and sing badly in the shower." "I heard you sing badly in the shower. I am aware of the risks." She squeezed his hand. "Okay. Official. Dating. Functional adults experiment. Let us do this until we fail spectacularly or succeed surprisingly. Cautious optimism. I can work with that." They finished breakfast in silence, and when Samantha went to get ready for work, Chandler stayed there processing the fact that his perfectly organized life had been completely turned upside down by a woman who left clothes on the sofa and ate cereal straight from the box. and he did not want to go back to the way it was before. 3 days later, Samantha's apartment was officially ready. The property manager called with the excited news that the floor had been replaced, everything was dry, and she could move back in whenever she wanted. Samantha politely thanked her, hung up the phone, and stood in the middle of Chandler's living room, feeling something that felt dangerously close to panic. "Trouble?" Chandler asked, looking up at her. "My apartment is ready." "Ah." He closed his laptop completely, giving her his full attention. "That is good." "It is." She sat on the sofa. "Totally good, great even. I can go back to my space, stop invading yours, regain some sense of independence. But I do not want to." The words came out in a rush. "I should want to." Functional adult people maintain their own spaces. They do not move into their boyfriend's apartment after 3 days of dating that technically started with a flood. 4 days, Chandler corrected, if we are being precise. "You are counting?" "Obviously." He got up, went to sit next to her on the sofa. "And for the record, you are not invading. You are cohabiting, with all my stuff scattered through your meticulous order. Your organizational disorder has grown on me." He took her hand, played with her fingers. "Sam, if you want to go back to your apartment, I understand. No pressure. We can do this the traditional way, dinners, weekends together, build slowly. But I like you here. I like waking up and knowing you are here. I like tripping over your clothes on the living room floor and making coffee for 2 people and arguing about bad documentaries at 11 o'clock at night." He met her eyes. "So if you do not want to leave, do not leave. This is crazy. We are skipping all the normal relationship steps. We started with you running from a proposal and falling into my arms. Normal flew out the window a long time ago." Samantha laughed, leaned her head on his shoulder. "Caitlin is going to say I am in elopement couple mode. We did not run away to get married. It is an expression. It means moving too fast." "Ah." He kissed the top of her head. "Well, if Caitlin has an opinion, we should definitely ignore it completely. She is my best friend. Her opinions matter. Your opinions matter more." He pulled her close. "So what do you want, honestly?" Samantha was silent for a moment, thinking. What did she want? To go back to the empty apartment, where she had lived alone for 3 years, or stay there in that space that had become theirs in the last few weeks, where she had learned that Chandler organized books by height, where they had developed a routine that worked despite all the logical reasons not to work. "I want to stay," she admitted finally, "but I also want to keep my apartment as backup, or an office, or just a space for when I need to process things alone." That is perfectly reasonable. It is expensive, paying for 2 apartments in DC. You have a well-paying job. I have a well-paying job. Finances are not the problem. He turned her to look at him directly. "If having your own space makes you feel safer, keep it. No judgment. You are annoyingly understanding. And you are annoyingly complicated. We still match." She kissed him long and deep, and when they separated, she was smiling. "Okay, I will stay here. I will keep the apartment as a solo base of operations. Best of both worlds." "Perfect. Now I can officially add you as a cohabitant on the insurance contract. Romantic, practical, but with romantic implications." He pulled her onto his lap and she went easily. "Now that we have resolved housing, can we discuss the elephant in the room?" "What elephant?" "The fact that you have not told your sister about us yet," Samantha groaned. "Alana is going to give me a 40-minute lecture on divorce statistics and dysfunctional relationship patterns." "Then do not tell her, or tell her and ignore the lecture. You do not know my sister. She is relentless. I met your clingy ex-boyfriend and your other ex-boyfriend at the karaoke bar. I can handle a cynical sister. Challenge accepted." She picked up her cell phone, called before she could reconsider. Alana answered on the 3rd ring. "You are alive. What a miracle." "Hi, Alana." "Yes, still alive. Functioning even." Samantha put it on speakerphone, looked at Chandler with an eye. "You asked for this expression. I have an update. Did you finally hire a therapist?" "No, better. I have a boyfriend." Alana was silent on the other end. Then, define boyfriend. "Man with whom I am in a consensual romantic relationship. Standard definition." "How long?" "Technically a few days." "A few days?" Alana sounded somewhere between shocked and irritated. Sam, you do not tell me anything for 3 weeks, and then you drop "I have a boyfriend," as if it is a weather update? I was processing. And before you start, yes, I know it is fast. Yes, I know I have a questionable history with men. No, I am not having a breakdown. I was not going to say breakdown. I was going to say a manic episode of impulsive decision-making. Same thing in your vocabulary. Samantha looked at Chandler, who was clearly enjoying himself. He is here. Do you want to meet him virtually, or can you wait to insult him in person? Put him on the phone. Samantha handed the phone to Chandler, who took it with amused resignation. Hello, Chandler. Alana, older, wiser, and infinitely more skeptical sister. Her voice was sharp. Are you aware that my sister has commitment issues, generalized anxiety, and a tendency for romantic self-sabotage? I am aware. I have lived with all of them for the last month, and you are still there. Apparently, I have a masochistic tendency for complication. There was a pause, and then Alana laughed. Okay, you have a sense of humor. That is good. You are going to need it. Her voice softened minimally. Take care of her. She pretends she does not need it, but she does. I know, and I will. Samantha took the phone. Satisfied? Reservedly optimistic, which is the most you are going to get from me. Alana sighed. But seriously, little sister, if you are happy, I am happy. Even if statistically, no statistics. Just root for me this time. Always rooting, just with a healthy skepticism. Built in. There was real affection in her voice now. Love you. Bring him over for dinner sometime. I want to assess him personally. Love you too, and we will arrange dinner. Samantha hung up, looked at Chandler. Congratulations. You passed Alana's initial test. There was a test. There is always a test. You just did not know. She kissed him lightly. Thank you for not running away when she started with relationship statistics. Please, I deal with statistics daily. I can handle a sister armed with data. You are overly confident. Wait until the in-person dinner. I cannot wait. The next day, Lauren organized an official relationship celebration lunch that was just an excuse to publicly interrogate both of them about the timeline of their feelings. They were in a cafe in Georgetown, sitting at a table for 4, with Lauren and Caitlin flanking both sides like judges in a romantic court. So, Lauren started, stirring her cappuccino. When exactly did you realize you were in love? Chandler nearly choked on his sandwich. In love is a strong word. Chandler Lincoln, you literally let her live in your apartment for 3 weeks, defended her from a persistent ex-boyfriend, and sang karaoke horribly in public. Lauren raised an eyebrow. In love is the accurate description. She has a point, Samantha added, clearly enjoying his discomfort. You are not helping. I do not intend to help. I want to hear you admit your feelings. Publicly. You already heard, on the night of the karaoke, the full confession. But Lauren did not hear, and she deserves an update. Samantha took a sip of her coffee, her eyes gleaming. Come on, when did you realize? Chandler sighed, knowing he was surrounded. Probably the 2nd week, when I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and heard her eating cereal in the living room while answering work emails, and instead of getting annoyed, I just made coffee and sat with her until she finished. That is adorable, Caitlin said, practically melting. Sam, your turn. My turn what? When you realized. Samantha considered, bit her lip. When he bought almond milk without me asking. It sounds silly, but it was thoughtful, small. The kind of thing nobody does unless they are really paying attention. She looked at Chandler. And then I realized he paid attention to everything. How I drank my coffee when I got anxious. That I needed silence sometimes, but also needed to talk other times. And that was terrifying and wonderful at the same time. You two make me want to believe in love, Lauren said dramatically. And I am deeply cynical. You bet they would get together, Caitlin pointed out. Cynical betting is different from genuine belief. Lauren picked up her phone, showed something on the screen. And speaking of bets, Austin texted. He wants to know if you are going to his barbecue next week. Barbecue? Chandler looked suspicious. Austin does not do barbecues. He does now, specifically to celebrate your relationship. Your mother will be there too. Our mother? Chandler looked genuinely alarmed now. He invited our mother? Apparently she was asking about the mysterious girl. Austin thought it would be fun to force a formal introduction. Lauren was clearly loving this. You have 1 week to prepare Sam for the maternal interrogation. Samantha looked at Chandler with growing panic. Maternal interrogation? My mother is intense but well-meaning. He took her hand under the table. And Austin is going to pay for this. I think this is beautiful, Caitlin declared. Meeting the family, the natural next step. The natural next step would be a quiet dinner, not a barbecue ambush. Samantha squeezed his hand. But okay, we can do this. Meet your mother at a social event organized by your problematic brother. You are brave. Or insane. The barbecue happened at Austin's apartment, which Samantha did not know was big enough to host a social event, and it was full of people she did not know, but who apparently all knew Chandler. So you are the famous Sam, a woman in her 60s said, sharp eyes but a genuine smile. I am Monica, the boy's mother. It is a pleasure, Mrs. Lincoln. Samantha shook her hand, feeling Chandler tense beside her. Monica, please. Mrs. Lincoln makes me feel old. She observed Samantha with undisguised interest. My sons have talked a lot about you. Good things, I hope. Austin said you are exactly the kind of chaos Chandler needs in his life, and Chandler said you are smart, funny, and have an opinion about everything. Monica smiled. We're both correct? Probably. Samantha relaxed a little. I am definitely chaotic, and I have strong opinions. Excellent. Chandler needs someone who challenges him. He spends too much time in his own head. Monica touched her arm gently. Welcome to the, family, dear. Even if my oldest son is emotionally constipated sometimes. Mother, Chandler protested. What? It is true. She kissed his cheek. But you are improving. Love does that to people. She moved away to talk to other guests, leaving them alone for a moment. Your mother is great, Samantha said. She is opinionated and filterless. As I said, great. She kissed him quickly. Now, where is that brother of yours? I need to thank him for organizing a family ambush. They found Austin on the balcony, commanding the grill with his typical overconfidence. Welcome, he announced, flipping the burgers. The couple of the moment. How is the family tour going? Your mother is lovely, Samantha said. You, on the other hand, are problematic. I prefer catalyst for emotional growth. Austin handed a burger to each of them. But seriously, I am happy for you two. Chandler needs someone to pull him out of his comfort zone. And you need someone to teach. You boundaries, Chandler retorted. Boundaries are a social construct. Austin winked at Samantha. He is less tense. You are being a good influence. Or a bad influence, depending on your perspective, she replied. Best kind of influence. He served more burgers. Did our mother ask about the wedding yet? Austin, Chandler said with a warning tone. What? It is a valid question. You are living together, meeting the family, clearly in love. 3.5 weeks? Samantha interrupted. We have been together for 3.5 weeks. Marriage is not on the immediate agenda. But is it on the eventual agenda? Austin, Chandler repeated more firmly. Okay, backing off. But he was smiling. I just want you to know that I will be the best man, regardless of when it happens. Later that night, after the barbecue ended and everyone had left, and they were already home. Your family is crazy, Samantha said. They are enthusiastic. Chandler sat next to her, pulled her feet onto his lap and started massaging them, a casual gesture that made something warm in her chest. I am sorry about Austin and the invasive questions. You do not need to apologize. He is happy for you. It is adorable, in an annoying way. She closed her eyes, appreciating the massage. Your mother loves me. She loves everyone until proven otherwise. But she especially loves me. I can feel it. Arrogant, confident. There is a difference. She opened. One eye looked up at him. Are you happy? With the barbecue, it was tolerable. No, with this, us. The whole improbable situation. Chandler paused, considered the question with the seriousness he applied to everything. Yes, surprisingly, completely, happy. Even with all the chaos I brought, especially because of the chaos. He pulled her closer. My life was too organized before. Predictable, safe, and lonely, although I would not admit it. And now? Now it is chaotic and Unpredictable and scary sometimes. He kissed her forehead. But it is also full, with laughter and conversation and someone who eats cereal at 3 o'clock in the morning and leaves clothes on the sofa and makes me want to be better at expressing things that do not come naturally. That was surprisingly eloquent. I practice, mentally, while you sleep. Samantha laughed, pulled him in for a proper kiss, and when they separated, she said, I am happy too. Absurdly happy. You work with absurdly happy. Good, because you are stuck with me now. Worst fate in the world, he murmured against her mouth. Absolutely terrible, she agreed, kissing him again. And as they stayed there, intertwined on the sofa that had seen so many nights of silent work and arguments about documentaries, and had slowly become shared territory, both realized that maybe their love story had not started with instant attraction or a perfect cinematic moment. It had started with a disastrous escape, coffee staining his white shirt, and a flooded apartment. It had grown through forced cohabitation and shared breakfast, and small gestures of care that neither of them knew how to name. It had flourished in inconvenient honesty and terrifying vulnerability and the courage to admit that sometimes the best things come when you stop running and just stay. Stay present, stay vulnerable, stay available for what you had always been trying to avoid. And now, finally, staying, both discovered that the commitment Samantha feared most was exactly the one that felt natural. Because love, they learned, was not about perfect plans. It was about finding someone who saw all your chaos and still chose to stay. Someone who made coffee the right way and defended you from ex-boyfriends and sang badly in the shower and loved you exactly as you were, mess, fear, imperfections, and all. And that, Samantha thought, as Chandler pulled her from the sofa into their room, was absolutely everything. 3 months later, Caitlin visited and found the apartment transformed. There were photos on the walls now of them at the karaoke, at Austin's barbecue, on a weekend trip to Shenandoah. There were plants that were surprisingly alive. There was a mix of his order and her chaos that somehow worked. You two are sickeningly happy, she declared, sitting on the sofa where Samantha used to work alone. It is adorable and slightly nauseating. Thank you? Samantha poured wine. We are functioning surprisingly well. Because you stopped fighting it. Caitlin accepted the wine. You always wanted to control everything, and so did he. But together you just exist. It is beautiful, or scary. It can be both. Caitlin took a sip. Is he going to propose to you? Kate, it is a valid question. You live together. You are clearly in love. And Austin keeps texting about being the best man. Austin texts you? Occasionally. He is entertaining. Caitlin gave that smile. But seriously, have you thought about it? Samantha was quiet, thinking. 6 months ago, the idea of marriage would have made her want to run out the window. Now it seemed less terrifying and more inevitable, in a good way. Maybe, she admitted, eventually when we are both ready. You are ready now. I still have my apartment, which you use once a month when you need space. That is not lack of commitment. It is healthy self-care. Caitlin put the wine aside. Sam, you found someone who loves you completely, who does not try to change you, who sees you in all your chaotic moments and still wants to wake up with you every morning. That is rare. Do not let fear make you question it. When did you get wise? I have always been wise. You were just too busy running away to notice. When Chandler arrived home that night, Samantha was on the sofa, working on her laptop, and there was something different in the way. She looked at him, something soft and certain. Hi, he said, dropping his briefcase. Did Caitlin leave? An hour ago. She closed her laptop, patting the space next to her. Come here. He sat down, and she immediately snuggled against him, resting her head on his shoulder. Are you okay? He asked. I am great, just thinking. Something dangerous. Always. She turned her head to look at him. Chandler? Yes? I love you. It was the first time she had said it spontaneously, without a special occasion or a planned moment. Just a simple, true statement. He felt something expand in his chest, something huge and frightening and absolutely right. I love you too. I know, but I needed to say it. Officially, without an audience. Just us. Appreciated. He kissed the top of her head. Although I already knew. Of course you knew. You know everything. Not everything. But about you? Yes. I pay attention. I noticed. She settled in more comfortably. Can we just stay like this for a while? As long as you want. And they stayed in the apartment that had become theirs, on the sofa where she worked and he read, in the space that had witnessed love being born between them and had slowly turned into home. Because sometimes the best stories do not begin with love at first sight. They begin with clumsy stumbles, forced cohabitation, and the slow courage to stop running away. And they end, or rather they continue, with two people who found in each other exactly what they did not know they were looking for. Organized chaos, brave vulnerability, improbable love that somehow made perfect sense, and that, both silently agreed as they remained intertwined on the sofa, was absolutely perfect. 18 months after that morning when she ran away from a brunch and stumbled straight into his life, Chandler was standing in the middle of the kitchen at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning, holding a blue velvet box and questioning every decision that had led him to that moment of existential panic. The ring was perfect. Simple, elegant, exactly her style. He was sure of it because he had spent 3 months researching, secretly consulting Caitlin, and analyzing every photo where she wore jewelry to determine preferences. The problem was not the ring. The problem was that Samantha Nacon was unpredictable, and any elaborate plan had a 50% chance of spectacularly imploding. Are you having an existential crisis? Samantha's voice made him jump. She was standing in the kitchen doorway, hair messy, eyes sleepy, and completely awake enough to notice his panic. I am not having a crisis. He hid the box behind his back with the subtlety of an elephant. You are standing in the middle of the kitchen at 6 o'clock in the morning, without coffee, staring into space. That is the definition of a crisis. She approached, trying to see what he was hiding. What do you have there? Nothing. Chandler Lincoln, you are an awful liar. I am working on it. Samantha stared at him for 3 seconds, then saw the box when he shifted his position, and her expression changed completely, from sleepy and amused to wide-eyed and processing. Is that what I think it is? Chandler sighed. So much for the elaborate plan. I had a speech, well thought out, with references to you grinding your teeth at night and eating my bacon without asking and how badly I sing in the shower, but you never really complain. You did? But you woke up early and ruined the plan. He brought the box forward, opened it, revealing the ring he had carefully chosen. So improvised version. Sam, you are the best thing that has ever happened to me. Even when you leave clothes on the sofa and eat cereal at 3 o'clock in the morning, and argue with me about documentaries that you are objectively wrong about. I want to do this forever. Officially. With legal documentation and everything. You are proposing to me mentioning legal documentation. I am nervous. My brain reverts to technical language under pressure. Samantha laughed, that laugh he loved more than any sound in the world, and held out her left hand. Put the ring on before I start crying and ruin the moment with excessive emotion. He put the ring on, his hands trembling slightly, and when it was perfect on her finger, because he had secretly measured using another ring she had, she pulled him into a kiss. That confirmed yes, she was saying yes, and yes, he had asked the right question even with the completely wrong timing. You planned this, she said when they separated. Exhaustively. I had the perfect location chosen, ideal moment, speech prepared, and I ruined everything by waking up early. You did not ruin it, you just improvised for me. He held her face with both hands, which is much more appropriate for us. True, perfect plans are overrated. She looked at the ring, smiling in that way that made his chest clench. Can I call Caitlin and scream emotionally, or is it too early? It is 6:15 in the morning. Then I am definitely calling. She called. Caitlin answered on the 5th ring with the voice of someone who was clearly sleeping. Someone better be dead or I swear. He asked, Samantha yelled into the phone. Caitlin was mute for 2 seconds. Then, details. Now. Every word. And while Samantha told the story to Caitlin, an edited version that conveniently omitted that she had woken up and ruined his perfect plan, Chandler made coffee and realized that he had just committed to marriage in the most chaotic and improbable way possible, exactly like everything else with Samantha, and he would not change a thing. 6 months later, they were in the middle of wedding planning, which Samantha had insisted would be simple, and which had quickly escalated to 150 guests because family is family and friends matter. "This is not small and simple," Chandler said, looking at the guest spreadsheet he had created because someone needed to bring organization to the chaos. "It is relatively small. My colleague is having a wedding with 300 people. Samantha was tasting cakes, the 5th bakery of the week, and taking meticulous notes. "This one is good. Red velvet with cream cheese. Do you like it?" "It is adequate. Adequate is not an answer. Scale of 1 to 10. 7. We need at least 8. She marked it on the list. "Next bakery? We have already tasted 20 types of cake. They are starting to all taste the same. Welcome to wedding planning, where you obsessively compare trivial things until you lose your sanity." She ate another piece. "But at least we have free cake." Questionable optimism. "It is all I have now." Lauren appeared at the bakery door, waving. She had self-appointed herself the unofficial wedding consultant and showed up at every appointment with strong opinions. "Have you decided on the flowers yet?" she asked, sitting with them. "Not yet. We have a meeting with the florist on Tuesday." Samantha showed the list. "We are in the cake tasting phase." "Important phase. Can I help?" Lauren did not wait for an answer, just picked up a fork and started tasting. "This is good. 7.5. "See?" Chandler looked at Samantha. 7.5. "I said 7. We are calibrated." "That is pathetic." "Adorable but pathetic." But she was smiling. "Okay, this is a backup. We keep looking." 3 bakeries later, they found the perfect cake, chocolate with raspberry that both agreed was 9.5, and Samantha collapsed on the sofa when they got home. "Wedding planning is exhausting," she said, taking off her shoes. "How do people do this without a mental breakdown?" "They do not. They just pretend better." Chandler sat beside her, pulled her feet onto his lap and started massaging them. "But we are almost there. Cake resolved, flowers on Tuesday, invitations go out next week. And then we have to deal with rehearsal and rehearsal dinner and actually getting married." She closed her eyes. "Can we run away to Vegas? You already sent 150 invitations. We can cancel. Your mother will kill us." "Valid point." She opened one eye, looked up at him. "Are you nervous? About getting married?" "No, about organizing a social event for 150 people?" "Absolutely." She sat up, kissed him quickly. "But at least we are nervous together. Best kind of nervous." The wedding happened on a sunny Saturday in October, in a garden in Virginia, overlooking the mountains, and a perfectly reasonable number of white flowers that Lauren had insisted were classic and elegant. Chandler was standing at the altar, which was technically just a wooden arch with flowers, waiting, and trying not to think about all the ways that this could go wrong. "Relax," Austin said beside him, adjusting his own tie. "She will show up. She loves you. Stopping running away is kind of your whole relationship theme. Thank you for the comforting support. I am here to help." Austin smiled. The music started, and Chandler saw Caitlin coming down first as maid of honor, then Lauren, who Samantha had insisted be in the procession because she is part of the story. And then Samantha appeared, and Chandler completely forgot how to breathe. She was wearing an elegant dress, exactly her style. No exaggeration, just her. Beautiful in a way that made his heart skip uncomfortably. When she reached the altar, she was smiling with that crooked smile he knew so well. "You showed up?" he murmured. "Did you doubt it?" "For a second. Caitlin locked me in the room until I promised not to do anything stupid, so technically I had no choice. I will send her thank you flowers." The ceremony was short and personal. Both had insisted on it. The officiant spoke about finding the right person at the least convenient moment, about how resisting the inevitable only makes the surrender sweeter, and about building something real in the midst of life's chaos. There was laughter from the guests, and when it came to the vows, Chandler took a piece of paper from his pocket. "I wrote this," he said, unfolding it, "because improvising emotions in front of 150 people is not my strong suit. Sam, when you fell into my arms 2 years ago, I should have realized it was a metaphor. You literally stumbled into my life and changed everything. You turned my perfectly organized apartment into a chaotic home. You turned my predictable routine into a daily adventure. And you made my heart, which I was sure was just an organ efficiently pumping blood, feel things I did not even know were possible." He looked at her. You taught me that control is an illusion, that chaos can be beautiful, and that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is just stay. So I promise to stay. Through flooded apartments and ruined plans and all the times you eat cereal at 3 o'clock in the morning, I promise to love you exactly as you are. Chaos, fear, imperfections and all. Forever. With legal documentation. Samantha was crying now, trying to wipe her eyes without ruining her makeup. You cannot end with legal documentation. It ruins the moment. It is our trademark. That is not fair. You used all the good references. She picked up the paper with her vows, her hands trembling slightly. I wrote mine too, because if I improvise, I will say something ridiculous and ruin everything. She took a deep breath. Chandler, I spent my entire life running away from commitment, from anything that felt too real or too scary. And then you showed up, with your minimalist apartment and perfect coffee and strong opinions about organization. And for the first time, I did not want to run away. You made it feel safe. You made love feel possible. And you made me realize that sometimes the commitment we fear most is exactly what we need most. So I promise to stay too. Even when I leave clothes on the sofa and eat nocturnal cereal and grind my teeth that you insist I should see a dentist about. I promise to love you completely, challenge you frequently, and make you laugh even when you are trying to be serious and professional. Forever. No running away this time. They exchanged rings and the officiant declared them married. The kiss was long and deep and completely inappropriate for a public event, but nobody complained. The reception was a controlled chaos, the best kind. There were emotional speeches from Caitlin, a hilarious speech from Austin, and a surprisingly sweet speech from Lauren about how real love is finding someone who makes you want to be a better version of yourself, even when you are perfectly happy being exactly who you are. Monica, Chandler's mother, pulled Samantha aside during the dance and said, "Welcome officially to the family. You make my son happy in a way I have not seen in years. He makes me happy too," Samantha replied, watching Chandler dancing horribly with Caitlin. "Even when he organizes my books by color without permission. Does he really do that? Every week. It is adorable and annoying." Monica laughed. "You are perfect for him." Alana peered with wine. "Statistically, you have a 50% chance of divorce." "Alana," Monica said with disapproval. "What? It is true, but," she looked at Samantha smiling, "you two have a better chance than most. You truly know each other, the good, the bad, the chaotic, and you still choose to be here. That is more optimistic than I expected from you," Samantha said. "Do not tell anyone. I have a reputation to maintain." Alana hugged her quickly. "Be happy, little sister. You deserve it." When the night ended and everyone had left, Chandler and Samantha were alone in the hotel room, taking off their shoes and processing that they had officially gotten married. "We did it," Samantha said, collapsing onto the bed. "We organized a wedding for 150 people without anyone dying. Notable success." Chandler joined her, still in his suit, but with his tie already loose. "And now we are married. Legally bound, with documentation and everything." "You mentioned documentation in the vows. It was important to establish." Samantha laughed, turned to face him. "I love you, even with your references to legal documentation and obsessive need to organize everything. I love you too, even with your chaos and complete disorganization. We are going to be awful at this sometimes," she said. "Probably, but we will be awful together. We will be perfectly awful." They kissed, long and slow, and Samantha thought she had finally found the kind of commitment that was worth every second of fear she had felt along the way. 3 years later, Chandler was standing in the same apartment, holding a 4-month-old baby who was crying at 3 o'clock in the morning. "Shh, little one," he murmured, rocking gently. "Mommy is sleeping. Daddy is here, and Daddy has no idea what he is doing." "You are doing everything perfectly," Samantha said from the bedroom doorway, hair messy, wearing his shirt as always. "She just wants to be held. She is crying. Babies cry. It is their primary communication until they develop language." Samantha took their daughter, and the crying magically stopped. "See, she just needed a change. How do you do that? Mother's instinct. And 3 weeks more practice than you while I was on leave. She sat in the armchair they had specifically bought for nighttime feeding. Go back to bed. I will take care of it. I can stay. You have a meeting at 8 o'clock. You need to sleep. You also need to sleep. I sleep when she sleeps, which is never, but I am managing. Samantha looked at their daughter, smiling with that softness that Chandler did not know she had until Tracy was born. She is beautiful. She has your nose. And your stubbornness. Yesterday, she refused the bottle for 20 minutes just because she could. That is combined genetics. We created a mini stubborn version of ourselves. Poor thing. But Samantha was smiling. Chandler? Yes? I love you. And I love our chaotic life with a baby who does not sleep and an apartment full of diapers and the complete lack of organization you used to have. I love it too, even at 3 o'clock in the morning when I am operating on 3 hours of sleep. He kissed the top of her head, then Tracy's. You two are my whole world. Careful, you are getting sentimental. Sleep deprivation does that. Blame Tracy. Never. He looked at their daughter, small and perfect and completely unexpected. She is the best thing we have ever done. Better than that wedding cake? Significantly better. I agree. Samantha yawned. Okay, maybe you should sleep. Someone needs to be functional tomorrow. I love you. I love you too. Now go before I change my mind and make you stay awake with me. Years later, many years when Tracy was 7 and her younger brother was 5, someone asked Samantha how she and Chandler had made it work. Honestly, she said, watching him try to explain a lesson to Tracy while their youngest son built a tower of blocks nearby. We stopped trying to control everything. We accepted the chaos. And we discovered that love is not about having a perfect life. It is about finding someone who makes the imperfect life worth every second. And as she watched Chandler finally give up on the lesson and start building with blocks too, because sometimes you just need to join the chaos, she realized that accidental coffee bump years ago had been the beginning of everything. The disastrous escape, the flooded apartment, the forced cohabitation, the scary vulnerability. It had all led to this life, to this family, to this love that had started improbably and had grown inevitable. And she would not change absolutely anything, not even the part where she still left clothes on the sofa and Chandler still complained while secretly finding it adorable. Because in the end, they had discovered that the best kind of love was the one that saw all your chaos and still chose to stay. Always. Forever. With legal documentation and everything. So, what would you do if destiny placed you inside the house and the heart of the most unlikely person? Comment here about what surprised you most in the story and what you think will happen between Samantha and Chandler. Your subscription, your like, and your hype greatly help the channel grow and bring these stories to even more people.